I always find it quite interesting when, again, don't want to get too much into terminology and the attempt at categorization. I like your approach of keeping it simple, but this whole idea of direct versus indirect, I find confuses things slightly sometimes, because depends what type of company you are. It's, services could sit in either direct or indirect spend. If you are an Atkins or a WSP, like a, building infrastructure consultancy, your direct costs are effectively services where you're subcontracting.
Yeah.
And your indirect are probably going to be goods not for resale, like laptops and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in, an engineering company, it might be completely different. So I feel like there is, to get through to where the nub of this is, you need to be really approaching this from a very top level, listening to what you're saying, because who should care about it? That's the next point I wanted to get onto. Who should care about this? There's various people that I think potentially should care about it, but when you consider the amount of spend that's involved in it, who do you think this should be something that who should, within organisations, should be worrying about this?
Well, everybody should be worried about it. Of course, if it's half of what your organisation spends, everybody should be worried about it, or understand it, at least. Going back to your point about, it's a C-level conversation. I think the fundamentals of it are a C-level conversation. Yeah. So, do you know how many non-permanent employees you've got, Mr. or Mrs. CEO? Do you know? The answer I get to that question is not really. A lot of the time. So that's worrying for a start, and something therefore to investigate. Going back to your previous point about direct or indirect, it's down to a good procurement function to understand the business, understand the type of organisation it is, and build their operating model around that suits the business, that's going to give them the best result. So that's the answer to that, I think. But everybody should be worried about it, So, and everybody is worried about it. I don't know if that's the right term, but it should be interested. Obviously, the CFO should be interested from a financial management perspective, from a forecasting and budgeting perspective. The tech function needs to be worried about it. Have we got the right technical expertise in the right place? Are we paying the right amount of money? We're using third parties to develop products, services, operate our business. How well are we doing that compared to our competitors? What do we do to optimize it? The legal function, are we getting the right lawyers in? Are they the best lawyers for us, for our organization? Do they give us the right advice? And are we paying the right amount of money? And are we optimizing our engagement with the law firms to do their job? Doesn't matter who it is. Everybody in the organization should have a view, because I would expect that pretty much every C-level member, every C-suite member will be using third parties at some point during the year to deliver for them, either in an indirect or direct capacity.
Yeah. I agree with you. But do you think it's one of those things where everybody feels like it's maybe someone else's problem or someone else's responsibility, in the sense that everybody's got a stake in it within the organisation, or a large number of parties have got a stake in it within the organisation? But whose problem is it? Who owns it? Who's responsible?
Well, I think probably procurement, right? That's the place that you go in an organisation to buy stuff. And if procurement is not able to advise you correctly in that space, and you don't feel that you're going to get that, you'll make your own decisions, which might not be the right decisions. And it's procurement's challenge and opportunity to address this in the right way, which is understanding the business, understanding stakeholders. What is the challenge? What is the strategic imperative for my business as a whole and for my stakeholders' business within that? And then how do I design a procurement strategy around that optimizes whatever they need from me and my function, whether it's the risk element to the supply chain, whether it's the geographic requirements for the supply chain, whether it's a carbon neutral focus for the supply, whatever it is, then procurement's challenge and opportunity is to address that and deliver back to the business a great service that delivers what your stakeholder needs.